right, let's get straight to the dailies. Mr. Wale Fatade, the commissioning editor of The Conversation Africa, joins us right here in our Lagos City. Mr. Fatade, always a pleasure to see you here.
Good to see you too, Jeffrey.
Let's get straight to
Bukola, good to see you.
Yeah, let's get straight to the dailies. Of course, the dailies are screaming literally the same thing. So let's start with this Nigeria, apt on this. Fubara back, curtain closes on emergency rule. Fubara back, curtain closes on emergency rule. Declaring emergency painful, inevitable, says Tinubu, urges all to work together for progress of state. Wike Lord's president warns crisis profiteers to stay off rivers. Mr. Fatade.
I like the sub-editor who crafted that headline, but I'm not sure the curtain has actually closed on emergency rule. And I was watching your introductory remarks. It was President Obasanjo in 2004 in Plateau State when he suspended the governor too. And Section 305 is actually silent on whether the president has the power to remove the governor or not. But there's another lacuna in the way this one was done. The National Assembly was supposed to give a stamp of authority or approval on that process. And the Constitution actually stipulates that there must be 2/3 majority of the votes. But in this instance, it was voice vote. And that's a major issue. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but legal experts can speak about that. I do not think that a voice vote satisfied that constitutional requirement. And that's important. So, but that's, by the way, speaking to the Constitution. For Governor Fubara, I think it was one of these past days I was watching you guys, whereby you ask somebody that what advice will you give to Governor Fubara? I think if I were to meet Governor Fubara, I would just say, come back after 6 months or by December, just resign. Because he's severely amputated as a governor. I don't know how he hopes to do it. And I don't know the kind of sagacity or the kind of powers or the kind of wisdom, maybe the one that God gives, the Solomonic type. There are major landmines on his way. But it's good that democracy at certain level is back in Rivers State. I've been following events in the state now. It appears everybody is ready to work together. But I think the statement credited to former Governor Wike must be tongue-in-cheek, whereby he's saying that those who profit from the crisis, I think he has been the greatest profiteer. He has won majorly. Yeah.
They caused the crisis. So that, let's put it in context. Himself and the governor, and the members of the House of Assembly.
Yeah, but you and I know you can stimulate the crisis, or you can simulate it.
They are the crisis.
Yeah.
The president tried to what do you call it now? Resolve that crisis.
Supposedly.
And then even got the president into more trouble.
Yeah, but then as far as in the House, you know, this concept of African way, which is more, I know that of Yoruba culture, is like that in every part of Nigeria, whereby when you resolve dispute, you don't, there is no winner, there is no loser.
No victim of anguish.
Yeah, the president did not do that. A particular side won more.
Yeah, I don't want to argue their politics. Let them do their politics.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That
yeah.
Well, as you said, Jeffrey, the papers are pretty much on the same page as far as the front pages are concerned. And looking at Daily Independent, you would see that that's what exactly it leads with. As Fubara Assembly resume, Tinubu defends emergency, and the host of writers there says he would have failed rather if he didn't take action, warns governors, state assemblies to work together. And there's more if you pick up Daily Independent. No, but Mr. Fatade, you said something instructive.
Which one?
The statement credited to the Honorable Minister, Nyesom Wike.
Oh yeah, when he said that those who profit from the crisis.
Profiteer.
He made the greatest profit.
You know, but you're taking a critical look at Mr. President's
effectively
speech.
Is the governor now, whether de jure or de facto.
Yeah, taking a critical look at Mr. President's speech on the return of state of emergency, Mr. Wike is visibly absent in the mention of Mr. President, as it was during the declaration of the state.
Yeah, but that speech was written by some of our past colleagues or fellow colleagues. So public communication is designed to achieve something.
Because
sometimes it does not speak to the reality.
He never distanced himself from the conflict while it lasted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you mean?
You mean the president or Mr. Wike? Please, I didn't get that.
Mr. Wike.
Yeah, he did not. He never pretended, and I like him for that. That does not mean I'm his admirer, but I like him owning up to his statement, fronting up to whatever he believes in. But I think that at a certain time, you must stop behaving like this bull in the China shop. so that you don't just, if you win, at what cost? What exactly happens? By the time there have been people who have been governors and they are no longer in reckoning in political setup today, what happens if this APC government is no longer in power? What does he hope to do in that river state? There will be people in that state, former political gladiators or actors, who are no longer in reckoning now. So post-APC government, let's assume that the APC government comes back 2027, maximum 4 years, 2031, what happens to a wiki? These are questions none of us here should answer for him. They are questions meant for him.
Definitely. I'm not even going to attempt to do that.
Yeah, none of us here is a spokesperson.
I'm not going to attempt to do that. Vanguard newspaper, Mr. Fatah, they also leads with the same story. No surprises there. Excitement, as on the front page of the Vanguard. Excitement as Tinubu ends emergency rule in Rivers, restores Fubara. You know, the whole ride is that we've seen time and again. But
that is such a boring day in the newsroom.
But I want to show you something, Mr. Fatah. Okay. The last paragraph of the president's statement. Well, not the last paragraph, maybe the second to the last, where he said, I take this opportunity to remind the governors and the houses of assembly of all the states of our country to continue to appreciate that it is only in an atmosphere of peace, order, and good governance that we can deliver the dividends of democracy to our people. I implore all of you to let this realization drive your actions at all times. Is this some veiled threat that I've done for Rivers?
You can implement it that way. You know that headmaster, and I'm sure my mother is watching this now, the retired headmistress holding the cane, you leave the cane on the dining table. Usually those days she serves ogi in the morning, something I never liked taking. So she just leave the cane on the table. So what does that tell you? If you don't take this ogi, Adewale, you know what is coming. So that's, without saying anything, she served the ogi, she just put the cane on the table. So saying that everybody behave very well. Yeah, just behave very well. And you know, it could be interpreted at that level. But the other level for me, which my own take would be, I wish the president turned that mirror to himself too. And I wish he speaks that to the people in Katsina State, where we've seen bandits trotting along with rifles on their chest. He speaks that to the people in Zamfara State. He speaks that to the people in Plateau State. That is the only progress that can come in an atmosphere of peace. So the buck stops on the president's table too. Physician should heal himself.
There's Borno State as well.
And Borno State as well. So he should tell that to himself. Apart from the veiled threat, as it were, to other governors, to other governors in the state, in the nation, the president should tell himself that too. That progress can only come in an atmosphere of peace.
You know, as we go to the next daily, you know, sometimes it's difficult for certain people to understand the rule of law when it comes to these things, and that's why we keep re-emphasizing.
Or we speak about the rule of law when it does not concern us. But when it concerns us, we resort to anarchy.
When it doesn't work for them, it's not good. When it's worked for them, it's good. Yeah.
So we cherry pick that aspect of the Constitution.
So we leave politicians to be politicians at the end of the day. But it's important that we use this opportunity to drive home that message. That no elected official is accountable, not a governor, not a house, what do you call it now, local government chair.
Local government chair.
Is accountable to a president. They are accountable to
the electorate, to those who elect
and those electorate are in the House of
them.
Assembly. Just like the president of our country is not accountable to ECOWAS or AU or UN or Russia, anybody, is accountable to us through our House of Assembly. Yeah. It is us that will say, we don't want you, or no, we insist you must stay here. Because if we do not put this in record, I pray we don't get to one point where we have a truly reckless president who will walk around the fine lines of the law.
But we have seen different precedents since this democratic experiment started in 1999, defining their presidency a different way, more of a personalized democratic experience. So you can't really say this is what you are going to get. It's as how President Jeffrey wants to operate, or President
I don't want to be one, by the way.
No problem.
It's too stressful.
Okay, let's say President Bukola.
Fantastic.
Some of the presidents we've had have made these statements too. So I don't want to.
Nigeria is a lot of work.
And after a while, I said the people told me to run.
I was talking,
my people said.
I was in a discussion with a former governor, senator, and we were asking him that, just informal, we are not intervening, that why don't you want to be president? Others are contesting. And you know, he said something that I will not forget. He said, look, Wale, if you know those who can make me president, tell me. that in Nigeria you don't become president unless some people want to make you president.
That's instructive. All right, let's go to the Guardian newspaper. God, I wanted to say something. Okay.
I'm just wondering about the contradiction, that obtains around the current president because of his democratic credentials, particularly, as we approached democracy from military rule, so...
What credentials?
Well, fought for democracy, and we refer
like all
to
of us
that
do, like some of us.
Rigorously.
Yeah, those of us in the newsroom those days, we did that. We were part of the battle. Yeah.
Yeah. And the lessons to be learned.
But we have seen contradiction in those ideas he professed that time and what we are seeing now.
Okay, the Guardian is the next one. Doubts, uncertainty in Rivers, as you said. You said newsroom will be boring today.
Oh yeah, it's one of those that.
Uncertainty in Rivers.
All of us will dance in the same direction.
Uncertainty in Rivers, power tussle as Fubara returns. So we have the picture of President Bola Tinubu, Vice Admiral Ibokete Bas, whom I want to only remember for his work as a military man. I don't remember anything about what he did in Rivers State. Wule Martins is
that's selective perception.
Yeah, it's deliberate. I'm a Democrat to the core, so I don't know where he
But history will record his 6 months in Rivers.
It's a bad spot on our history books. But the big one here is uncertainty in Rivers power tussle. Which is the bigger problem? Somebody said peace may have returned if there was chaos in the first place. But that peace was not orchestrated by maybe Bas or whatever. Because it is these same actors, Nyesom Wike, Sim Fubara, Martins Amewule, who are the vanguard of it, that brought us into this crisis, that are still there now. And it's a fragile situation they all have on their hands, given that Fubara politically has been encircled. Are you worried for him? Are you worried about the state of this part also? Or you see, it's just going to lame duck through this out of respect for the president.
What's that saying again, that if you ride the back of tiger, is it the tail of the tiger, you end up in its belly? You said something jocularly the other time that you don't want to be president. When you accept poison chalice, you have to live with the indigestion thereafter. So Mr. Fubara, he doesn't have my sympathy. Well, because if you cast our minds back, how did he emerge?
That's another kettle of fish.
Well, how was it primarily? People, we are chroniclers of history.
All right, Mr. Fadade, fantastic point. For us, we're not interested in anything than the rule
so
of law.
let him eat his supper by himself.
It's the rule of law we're interested in. Deborah Balama, our correspondent in Port Harcourt, is standing by. We understand, Deborah, you are at the government house. Where exactly? Inside the government house? Outside the government house? Around the government house? Deborah?
Good morning, Joe, and the rest of the team in the studio. So I am actually at the car park right beside Government House. As you can see right behind me, there are a crowd of people gathering gradually. I spoke with some of them just before coming live, and they said that they are here to welcome Governor back into office after 6 whole months. You are aware of the story what played out in River State on the 18th of March, 2025. The president announced the state of emergency in River State and suspended the governor, his deputy, and the members of the House of Assembly. And just yesterday, at the expiration, only a day to the expiration of the 6-month suspension, it was lifted. And the president said they can now resume as peace has returned to River State. So this morning, yesterday, it was a little bit calm. I went out, what's going on? People didn't come out. I didn't notice much. Seems like they didn't know what had happened. But surprisingly, this morning, there is a crowd of people gathering at Government House gradually. I understand that they are from the 23 local government areas of River State. And when I spoke with them, a lot of them seemed very excited. They cannot wait to see the governor. A lot of them actually told me off camera that it's been long awaited, as they think that democratic rule will help projects strike and other things in River State.
Indeed, Deborah, and we can also see that where you are appears very busy. What can you tell us about, government officials that you may have cited, either at the government house where you are, or even at the State Assembly, And how soon will we see Governor Fubara appear at the Government House?
Just before now, I ran into the former chairman of our local government, Perigi, and we spoke, and he said, well, they're expecting the governor to turn up. What I noticed, a lot of political appointees, like the former local government chairman, some other people, but there are a lot of strange faces here that I don't know. And I'm presuming that some of them are just basically people like the governor. Some of them do not actually, are not affiliated to politics from my discussion with them. Some of them said they headed over the radio and they just turned up this morning here. While I've seen scanty faces of politicians that I know around here, from the government house, there is no word exactly. But my discussions with some of the political authorities, of course, the governor would likely turn up. They are not sure the governor would likely turn up this morning to work. Well, we don't know if case is definitely going to turn up with him. But when I spoke with them, they are certain to some extent that the governor will turn up on work this morning. That is actually what it is as of now.
And well, it's quite interesting to see those people gathered. You say they're there to welcome Governor Fubara back after the 6-month suspension. But maybe we can speak about the outgone sole administrator now, because there were reports around when he left office yesterday that there was some sort of, was it a protest or disagreement or what have you? What do you know about that, really, Deborah? There, so let's try to do this one more time. I'm saying, what do you know about the reported protests? Security officials, they were said to have protested yesterday, or there was some disagreement, or what have you, over the exit of the sole administrator. There were some reports around that, and videos were making the rounds. Perhaps you might want to clarify what you know about that.
I'm trying to hear you because the drums already played here. But if I got something to say at the security situation, if I got that clearly, at the government house, I must say that security is not as tight as it was after the declaration of state of emergency. It seems calm. A few policemen, and then, of course, the normal armored vehicle is parked outside the government house. But not much tension. Everything just seems calm, aside from the crowd gathering more and more people coming in. That's just what it seems like for now.
But was there a protest? Yeah, I'm going to take it again quickly. Was there a protest by security officials attached to the sole administrator yesterday? Did you hear about that?
No word on that concerning that. But I heard rumors, okay, that there were certain issues, you know, but I can't really confirm them because I didn't quite hear from the government.
Right.
So that's what it's saying.
Right. Thank you very much, Deborah. It's going to be a very busy day, clearly. We can see all of the activities behind you. So please get back to us as soon as you get more, particularly the resumption of Governor Fubara in office.
Keep the studio updated as the events unfold. I don't know how much crowd we're expecting here more, but every minute that takes, the crowd seems to be gathering more and more. So it seems like Rivers people are turning up in large numbers to welcome their governor and his deputy back into office.
Fantastic. Deborah Balama, correspondent, thank you so much. Mr. Fatade, before we let you go, so just say what's playing. I understand that the House of Assembly will be sitting by 10 a.m. today, I don't know whether the entirety, they are divided into two. The 3 now against the 26 or 27. The Supreme Court said everybody should work together. So your last thoughts on this before we let you go.
Well, I think it's quite interesting that based on what we've just seen, the people of Rivers, especially those of them in Port Harcourt, they are still backing their governor. So long may that continue. Maybe with that, he might be able to ride the storm.
So, Fatade, always a pleasure coming here to help us with your great insight as far as the polity is concerned. Mr. Wale Fatade is a journalist, commissioning editor, The Conversation Africa. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
A pleasure.
All right, we will take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to a senior advocate of Nigeria. We'll be bringing legal perspective to all of these issues Join us again.
Welcome back, and we're very, very much on the return of democratic institutions to River State. We're staying with that subject. Of course, just moments ago, we hear that, a very healthy crowd seems to be forming at the government house in River State, where, government officials and, politicians and perhaps workers are waiting to welcome Governor Sim Fubara and his deputy as they resume work today, 6 months after. But what are the lessons to be learned legally and politically, particularly, with legal precedents in view? Let's welcome Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Barrister Ebun Olu Adegboruwa, who joins us virtually from Lagos. Good morning, Senior Advocate. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Let's first of all set the tone of, how this may have impacted the people of River State psychologically in the last 6 months, and how they may be viewing their governor as he returns to office now, before we begin to explore the other legal lessons.
This is an unfortunate development, and it looks and brings us back to those dark days of military regime when democracy then take over and people are rejoicing, because in the circumstances in River State, you had a military administrator who was in charge for 6 months. And then there's a broadcast asking the governor, the deputy, and the legislators to resume. It's actually like a transition from military rule to civilian rule. And that's why I thought that there ought not to be any form of celebration, as it were. We should watch this with guided optimism, given the fact that the circumstances that led to this declaration of state of emergency have not abated. And it will be good for the people of Rivers, though I'm happy for them, especially that in the past 6 months, they've maintained peace, they've maintained tolerance, and they cooperated with the sole administrator to be able to achieve his assignment and also endure that moment until the restoration of democracy in the midnight of today. So to me, I see it as an aberration and something that ought not to happen at all, given our democratic experience from 1962, when we had this kind of scenario when the government of Tafawa Balewa had to also wield the big stick in appointing a sole administrator for the Western region then. So politicians, leaders should learn from history to continue to use those experiences collectively to charter a way forward in deepening our democracy and also to ensure that we play by the rules. So for me, it's good that it has ended. There was no way the president could have extended the state of emergency in any way. But it's good that democracy is back in River State. The governor is back. The legislators are back. So we expect that they should work together and cover the lapses and there'll be progress for River State. But I do not have any cause for celebration in any way at all, Ma.
And speaking of historical precedent, it appears an inexhaustible conversation right from the beginning in March when the president declared a state of emergency. There have been references to 1962, to the declaration of his state of emergency under former President Obasanjo and former President Goodluck Jonathan. What would it be for you on the debate about the appropriate or inappropriate invocation of Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution, particularly with regards to the suit instituted by PDP governors that particularly never went anywhere, and we now have a return to democratic institution?
I think those are the things that Nigerians expect as part of the lessons of the River State experience. The various cases filed, the president referred to them as almost about 40 in the various courts, should go on and be determined. Once there were declarations sought in those suits, the court should pronounce on the legality or otherwise of the actions so that they can guide us and become useful precedent when this situation may present itself in future. I do not agree that those suits are academic or that they have been overtaken by events. The court should proceed to determine the declarations sought to guide our actions in future. Because the reason why we have the judiciary is that when parties have disputes between government, between individuals, there must be some definitive pronouncement from the third arm of government, being the judiciary, that will guide all combatants in order to achieve peace and stability. So I expect that the Supreme Court will proceed to determine that suit filed by the PDP governors and the other suits that are filed at the Federal High Court by various interest groups, SERAP, people from Rivers, human rights organizations and civil society organizations and political parties. Those cases should be determined so that it will be important for us to know. Because Section 305 has become a controversial section inserted in the Constitution, and especially in terms of the powers granted to the president, whether when there is need to declare a state of emergency, the consequential powers to be exercised by the president must be stated definitely. Because, if people exercise their mandate to elect others into office, such as they did to Governor Siminalayi Fubara and all the members of the House of Assembly, it's a sacred mandate that should be preserved at all costs. So if there's a reason for a single individual, such as the president, with all due respect, to interfere with that mandate, the circumstances should be spelled out within the Constitution, whether it will be extended to removing those that were elected by the people. And I think that's the area of the controversy, whether the president should have sacked the governor, whether he should have suspended, as it were, all elected democratic officers of River State in the course of this crisis. Those are matters that the court must determine one way or the other. And I think it's one of the lessons we should take from this exercise. Then additionally, is that based on Section 305, those that have exercised oversight functions over this state of emergency period, the president, the Federal Executive Council, the National Assembly, should render a report to the people of Nigeria. I mean, Rivers is one of the richest states in Nigeria. There are resources there. Somebody acted for 6 months as a single individual. What is his report? What did he do with the resources? I mean, what is the state of the handover? Those matters should become transparent to guide us. How did he manage the resources of River State? What were the decisions that he took? What did he leave behind? With all due respect, that Nigerians are entitled to know from the president who was exercising oversight responsibilities over the sole administrator, from the National Assembly, in terms of accountability and transparency, how much was received during this period, and what was it used for? What were the powers and the nature of those powers exercised by the sole administrator? I mean, you saw that there were protests in River State. Retirees are claiming not to have been paid. The sole administrator himself said he saved 5 billion. I mean, so you can't just be talking to people extraneously. There must be facts. How much did he receive? And then how was it expended? So I expect that those should be part of the lessons that we can take from this exercise to know that indeed there was prudent management of that tenure on behalf of the people of Rivers State.
Speaking of lessons, just before I yield the floor to my colleagues, you have expressed a maverick point of view there, saying that the courts should go ahead to determine the interpretation of Section 305, all the suits. But Ms. Adibure, I'm going to ask you pointedly. Some have said the judiciary, particularly under this current administration, is more political than legal. So can we rely upon the judiciary, if those suits go ahead, to give an appropriate interpretation of Section 305 of the Constitution?
I think that this is a matter of perception, and perception also determines reality. So it's important that, the judiciary must be seen, to be doing justice on all occasions. But like I maintain always, Bukola, when this matter comes up for discussion, with all humility, past 30 years or more that I have been going in and out of the courts, I will probably speak from my own personal experience that I cannot say wholeheartedly that the judiciary is political, the judiciary is biased, the judiciary is corrupt. So that's why I say it's a matter of perception, because I go in and out of these courts and I handle political cases, I handle all manner of cases. I have not had the opportunity that will lead me to those conclusions to say that indeed the negative. But the perception of the public in terms of how these cases are managed is important. For instance, the cases filed in the Supreme Court, I thought that because of the nature of the tenure granted to the sole administrator, 6 months, those cases should have been accelerated and determined one way or the other so that parties will know their fate. But that is not to say that, the failure to determine them then will mean that the judiciary is apolitical or indeed biased one way or the other. But I think, like I said, perception is important because indeed, when disputes arise between one person or the other, between one function of government or the other, everybody is expecting the judiciary to give a definitive pronouncement that will guide people so that nobody will have excuse to take the laws into his hands or act beyond the powers granted by the Constitution. So judiciary should interpret the law at all times that will guide human conduct and the actions of those who are in power. So to that extent, maybe one way or the other, the expectations may not have been met in terms of the expeditious determination of those cases. But I think that can be remedied now with the suggestion I gave earlier, that in order not to be seen as if those cases were deliberately delayed and frustrated, the judiciary should go ahead to determine them based on the declarations sought and give pronouncements and give interpretation as to the nature of power to be exercised by the president if there is any need to declare a state of emergency, which I hope will never happen in the history of this country again.
Well, Senior Advocate, so it's really tough to envision what to expect in terms of governance in Rivers State from today now. A lot of people have said the governor will be returning, which is still talked. He's been clipped, his wings have been clipped. Does that mean he'll be taking approval or seeking the approval of someone before he makes a decision as a governor and all of that? So it's really tough to envision what governance would look like. So for those who are on the flip side saying the end has justified the means, at least there is peace, so the president's decision is justified, what do you have to say to them? Also, for other states, because I read the last major paragraph of the president's statement, where he said that this should be a lesson to other states. So it will seem as though the president has unlocked a new power in the Constitution, where he can just suspend any governor, democratically elected, the deputy, and the members of the assembly. So what does this mean also for our federation?
Thank you very much. Honestly, I think that this moment should be one of sober reflection. for the combatants in Rivers State, starting from His Excellency, the Executive Governor, the Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly, and all the elected representatives. Because this was not a fight of the people of Rivers State. Not at all. It was a fight between political gladiators. The people of Rivers State were not involved in this crisis in any way at all. And people should have that in mind, that democracy is all about the people. This was just a matter of settling political scores between people who fell out between themselves. That's why I said it's a moment of sober reflection, because look at the governor, for instance. He's come back like an orphan. Yeah, I mean, in normal democratic settings, Rivers State should have been the best example for political stability, because you would have a state that you will really expect proper independence of powers, separation of powers, checks and balances. The expectation was for the House of Assembly to moderate the excesses of the executive, but not to do so overbearingly. The expectation was also that the judiciary will also act to put them. I mean, look at the National Assembly under Senator Bukola Saraki and Honorable Dogara. I mean, that was the example everybody expected in Rivers State, that the National Assembly will serve as a moderating institution to curtail the excesses of the executive, but not to fight, not to quarrel, not to seek to undermine each other. Because at the end of the day, it is the grass that is suffering. The people of Rivers State, they are the ones suffering. So coming back to power now, the governor should realize the need for tolerance. As an executive leader in a state, you can't walk alone. I mean, presenting budget to 3 people. The House of Assembly should understand the nature and limit of their powers. You are legislators. You cannot take over the role of the executive. You have to make law. No matter how powerful your office is as a speaker, the Constitution is clear in Section 4 that the legislator exists purely for lawmaking. So a situation whereby you seek to twist that function to take over the role of the executive, it will be resisted. And which was why I said, I will take all this development with guided optimism, because the factors leading to the declaration of state of emergency have not abated. I mean, the governor is in power. Elections were conducted in his absence. Local government chairmen have now emerged. Probably none of them has his loyalty or has his backing. So it's like somebody just floating. And that floating mechanism should be maintained in such a way that it will lead to a robust democratic experiment for the people of Rivers State, so that the House of Assembly and the governor should moderate their powers and understand the limit and spheres of their constitutional responsibilities in a way that will not lead to friction.
All right, Senior Advocate, I think there's something the Constitution is very clear about, and that is there is no such thing as a sole administrator. Section 1 is clear how Nigeria can be governed. I said that to say, what would you make of all the decisions taken by sole administrator, or administrator as they call him, Iboka Tebas, in the eyes of the law? If my enlightened opinion to say there is no such thing, looked at the law, I don't know where it doesn't exist, and then he took action, binding action. Statutory boards were formed, conducted local government elections, swore in chairman, something an aberration in the eyes of our law. So because the foundation is faulty, it makes everything cascading down quite difficult to make sense of. What happens to all of his actions in the eyes of the law? Because that's a major landmine that this governor and these people in the House of Assembly are going to face.
Well, thank you. This was the reason why I said all eyes are on the judiciary in respect of developments in Rivers State, not to sweep those cases and make them or render them academic. You know, this event has produced various contentions. if you read the speech of the president or the statement of the president yesterday, he labored so much to justify the circumstances leading to the declaration of state of emergency. So that is the view of the executive. Whereas many of us, with all due respect, looking at the fact that the Constitution says no state of Nigeria, no part of this federation shall be governed in any manner that is inconsistent with the Constitution. We then proceed that since the Constitution did not make room for the appointment of a sole administrator, it will seem that that appointment, in the eye of the law, is illegal. But those contentions are now placed before the court. So for us to know which is the true position of the law between the contending arguments, it's important that the court must speak and guide us and give definitive pronouncement. Now, concerning the actions of the sole administrator, there's a doctrine of preservation, doctrine of regularity, because we talk about the importance of resources within the state, the importance of contracts executed, appointments made. So it will be for the judiciary to examine if the foundation of a thing is questionable. Subsequently, all that may have been built on it would then have to collapse, because you can't build something on nothing and expect it to stand. And that's why it's important for me in particular that we must take this as a precedent for the judiciary to speak, so that next time the president will not take this kind of excess of power in the way he has done it, because he's now writing in the statement that they should be careful and watch what they do. So it's like waving a sword over River State now to say, look, this thing is still hanging. If you don't play according to the rules, we can come back. So that's why I said that those cases are not academic. And for the judiciary to save our constitution, to save our democracy by making definitive pronouncement on those cases.
It's interesting, Senior Advocate. So let's even expand this even further as far as the conversation is concerned. And that has to do with the conduct of the local government election, which is more like part of the sub you've answered, because there was also contention as to whether it did follow the Electoral Act. It was in violation of the Electoral. Let's put it as clearly as it could be, because even the INEC chairman talked about the timing, but their argument is to the fact that it's a continuum. The election was supposed to have been held, but it didn't hold because of all the crisis, and then somehow they were able to hold it just before the emergency rule ended. But I'm bringing that in because there is another level of government at the local government level, which is also a part of the contention we're looking at. So how far-reaching can that go as well?
Well, the way I take the issue of local government election in Rivers State is, like, for me, a fait accompli. It was like a major issue for declaration of state of emergency. It was like, take the grassroots, establish yourself properly, and then allow the governor to be floating, which is exactly what we seem to see now. If you look at the scenario in Rivers State now, the local government structure is not within the purview of His Excellency. The House of Assembly is obviously not in tandem with the executive. So that's why I said the other time that the governor is floating. The Governor Siminalayi Fubara, all eyes are on him. It's like somebody carrying a crate of eggs. He has to work it in such a way that, he will have to achieve stability in Rivers State. Those chairmen have been elected. They have been sworn in. Certificates of return have been issued to them. They have resumed. So it's only if the judiciary determines otherwise before any other step can be taken to affect their tenure. As it were, now, he has to work with them. He has to find a way to navigate this difficult terrain in the interest of the people of Rivers State, and I keep emphasizing, in the interest of the people of Rivers State, because one way or the other, the sole administrator, I mean, in spite of the challenges of his appointment, the challenges of taking unilateral decisions, for 6 months, I mean, there was relative peace within that institution, within that state, rather. If that could be done by an individual, there's no reason why the person who has the genuine mandate, who has the vote of the people, should not work with the people, work with the elders, work with the institutions, work with organized civil society and all people of Rivers State to achieve peace and progress for that state. So until there's a declaration from the court, it's difficult to postulate on the local government election and the purported election and appointment of those officers. For now, the governor has to work with them, unless there's a judicial determination to the contrary.
As we coast home now, sir, I can't seem to get it off of my mind that there's a key dramatis personae in the conflict in Rivers State who was curiously not mentioned in Mr. President's speech, announcing the return of democratic institutions to Rivers and, of course, justifying it. I wonder if we should, take this as, just another part of the speech, or, we should be interrogating it as well, particularly if we consider what Rivers State will look like going forward in terms of the conduct of relations between Governor Sim Fubara's government and the State Assembly.
Honestly, Bukola, I thought that one of the lessons from this experience is for us to speak directly to the Honorable Minister for the Federal Capital Territory, the former governor of Rivers State, Mr. Nyesom Wike. His Excellency should pursue legacy. He should pursue history. Because he has all the templates to turn that state to a golden port. He has the influence, he has the experience, and has all that it takes to make Rivers an example of progress and development. I do not think it will be proper every time that it's only when there's need to assert power, to assert influence, and then we only hear him concerning controversies. I appreciate his point of view that he established this structure, he produced the structure, but honestly, from the eye of the law, the person in charge of Rivers State is Governor Similaya Fubara. However, the circumstances may be that produced him, power is in his hand, and he should be allowed to govern. That's why I wanted to speak to His Excellency, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, to pursue history and legacy, and be able to use this opportunity to rally around the people of Rivers State and at least develop a roadmap that will ensure that between now and 2027, there should be no further conflict between the gladiators in Rivers State. Because whether he likes it or not, everybody will be pointing fingers to him. And I think he owes history that responsibility to mediate and settle the risks once and for all.
All right, Senior Advocate, there's a lot to unpack from the situation in Rivers State, but we have to thank you so much. We'll see how the courts rule, and this is certainly not the end to the conversation. We're speaking with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Ebolu Adeburu. Thank you for your time. Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's head back now to Rivers State, Port Harcourt, where our correspondents are live. Earlier on, we spoke with Deborah Agbalama, who was at the government house, where there's a crowd gathered, actually, to receive Governor Siminalayi Fubara. It's not certain or clear right now if he will be resuming this morning, but you'd expect that he will resume since the announcement yesterday ending his suspension after 6 months. But let's head over to our other correspondent, Charles Operum, who's live for us in Port Harcourt. Charles, what is the atmosphere like? It is 6 months exactly after the declaration of the state of emergency and the suspension of the governor. Is there really excitement in the air in Rivers State?
Morning, Kayode. So I'm standing here at the ever busy room. All I have to come forward a little bit from in the middle of the road. I've been here for maybe 20, 35 minutes now, and the road in the opposite direction is the way that leads to the government house. Since I've been standing here, I've seen vehicles with the banner of the governor, welcome back, Sinala Fubara, Your Excellency, we have missed you, driving in that direction, heading towards the government house. That's where the government house is. So I understand the people in these vehicles are on their way there to receive their governor on his return. So, but generally, the atmosphere is calm. When I try to interact with some people, ask them questions, some people had feelings of anticipation for the arrival or the return of the governor. So yeah, that's basically the situation here. But it's worthy of note to mention that the governor was not the only person suspended. The River State House of Assembly was also suspended. And that assembly, the House of Assembly, is going to be sitting this morning at exactly 10 a.m. In fact, where I'm standing is just about maybe 5 minutes drive from the House of Assembly quarters where they have been sitting. So it's very interesting to note or to find out what today's plenary is going to be about. Cowdy.
Well, that's interesting to hear, Charles. But, it's a mouthful having to say the suspension of the governor, the deputy governor, the members of the state assembly. We've said this time and again, and it's quite exhausting. Exactly. But as you said, yes, the state assembly will also resume today. And just to maybe bounce this off you, we heard about a certain disagreement, reports of certain disagreements among security operatives attached to the sole administrator, who is outgone now. And maybe you can tie this again to the security situation in the state. Because the president said, well, from the evidence he has, peace has returned and it looks like all of the stakeholders are ready to work together. So what does it really feel like? Is it the calm before another storm, or we can finally sing the storm is over now?
No, you make a very good artist if you decide to pursue that as a career. So interestingly, the security agencies they've been very tight-lipped. I've tried to reach out to my contacts within the security agency to find out what was the cause of that disagreement. But it's always been, the response has always been, don't worry, it's not a big deal. We just, we're human beings, it's a minor thing. So I don't have a lot of information as of this moment. Now, speaking about whether or not this is permanent or sincerely, the hope here is that we are going to have some level of political stability going forward. We're going to have some peace. We're not going to see any of those issues of, these guys versus these guys, protest, counter-protest, and so on and so forth. Thankfully, even at the height of the disagreement, it did not degenerate into violence, and that's one plus, maybe, if you could say that. But as of this moment, the hope and the belief is that we are going to have political stability and peace going forward here in River State. Sorry.
All right, Charles. I know that you cover the assembly a lot, and you know these guys a lot. So, in seeing them, speaking with them ahead of their resumed plenary, expected at about maybe 2 hours from now or less, what do you see in terms of body language, in terms of their morale, as far as the return is concerned? I mean, the lawmakers. And in addition, are we expecting the entirety? And when I said entirety, I'm talking about Okojombo, the other groups that are said to be loyal to Sim Fubara. Are they joining in this plenary, or is just a pro-Wike element?
All right, so in a few hours, we'll find out. But what I do know is that I remember that the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Right Honorable Martin Amewulu, actually declared vacant the seat of Honorable Safari Goodboy, Honorable Okojombo, and Honorable Adolphus, the third one. I think he also declared the seat of Right Honorable Edison vacant, but that is, Right Honorable Edison was already the chief of staff. So we don't know if part of this process, whether there's going to be a rescinding of those declarations made by the speaker. So we don't know for a fact. But at the height of the crisis, and this is very interesting, when I used to go to the assembly quarters, cover the sitting of the assembly while they were still in court against the government, I saw a few times, Right Honorable Oko Jumbo, in the quarters, because every lawmaker is entitled to a detached duplex in that area. So even those of them who were not with Amewule's group at that time were still coming to the assembly court, and I saw them have some kind of cordial relationship with their colleagues on the other side. So it looked like it was just politics. Because I tried to ask questions. I said, look, you guys are fighting, you guys are fraternizing. And one of them told me, just politics. He's not my enemy, he's just my political opponent. So that was the situation at that time. Whether or not the other three will come to join their 27 colleagues, only time will tell. So, and then to your first question about the body language of the lawmakers as they resume today, I haven't met any of them yet. The last time I spoke with them, was when they returned from the United Kingdom. After they were suspended, they traveled to London where they had a meeting. I think with the FCC minister. So I spoke to one or two of them, and they expressed their disappointment at the suspension, but they said there's nothing they can do, and they are going to abide by Mr. President's declaration. But that's no problem. They come back when they get suspended. So yeah, any moment from now, we'll be there to find out what exactly is going on and what the feeling is going to be at the House of Assembly. Yeah.
Interesting. But have you been able to speak maybe with the people of the states and citizens? Because at the end of the day, let's not forget how we got here. It had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the people. It is just political actors who were not able to resolve their issue, and it blew over to where we are right now. But the real power is in the hands of the people. What have you been hearing and seeing in terms of the feelers, in terms of interaction?
So yesterday, when I was leaving the gym where I work out sometimes, I spoke to some people around, asking them to find out from the people around, how do you guys feel with the governor's return tomorrow? And then after that, in my area, my neighborhood is not very far from there. I tried to do the same thing, and the response was mixed, sort of. Some said, well, it's their business. When they talk to, they come back. It's not of our business. Other people expressed some sort of anticipation at the governor's imminent return, and yet another set of people, expressed regret and disappointment that the governor was even removed and the other lawmakers were removed from office for a period of time. It's the first group. So yes, you are correct when you say this fight has absolutely nothing to do with the ordinary Rivers man and Rivers woman. Because these are people who are just going about their normal business. And every time they turn on the television or the internet or pages of newspapers, they hear about battles, political disagreements, and conflicts between political gladiators without their own input. So, everybody's going about their business. There's a mixed, a mishmash of emotions and feelings there. But I always say, it's time will redo all. Yeah.
Well, Charles, you must also acknowledge that there may be, a healthy dose of blame to go around when you consider the unrest that had transpired in Rivers State in the last couple of months, and indeed, if you consider, 1 year, recall the violence at local government secretariats, and some youths were visibly active in that unwholesome experience from Rivers. So lessons to go around for everyone, and maybe blame also. But let's return to the government house, where there is also a lot of expectations as far as the return of the governor is concerned. What can you tell us about the exit, or the expected exit of the sole administrator, and the preparation of the government house for the return of the governor and his deputy? What intelligence are you getting as far as that is concerned?
Okay, so like I said earlier, I'm not in the government house. I think my colleague Deborah Abolama should be there. She's at the government house, But you can juxtapose it with the arrival 6 months ago to the date of Vice Admiral Pipakese Ekweribad, and the exits of His Excellency Sinalai Fubara from the government house. It was a very quiet exit. There was no handover. The governor just left, went home, while the Solad arrived and took over. So I think basically the same thing is happening. The Solad will leave quietly while the governor comes to take over. It's not like it's not like an election where you hand over your hand, you give your handover notes and there's a ceremonial handover. No, typically. So, but I cannot speak for what's happening inside the government because I'm not there at the moment. Now, speaking to what you said earlier about lessons to be learned, from the disagreements, the imbroglio that occurred here in the state. Of course, the lessons are always as follows. When two politicians or two political gladiators fighting, people out on the streets, I don't think they should bother to take a side because, like Jeff made the point earlier, it has nothing to do with the people on the streets. I do point out that when you hear about rallies, you hear about one rally today pro the governor, you hear about another rally, like a counter rally tomorrow against the governor. That was basically our reality here in Port Harcourt at the height of the political crisis. But we sincerely hope that all these things are now firmly in the past. Okay.
Well, Charles, we have to thank you so much. We know you need to move to the State Assembly now to see how things play out. There's a lot to uncover, if I could use that term, today. So thank you, Charles. Please get back to us as soon as you get more details. Well, let's tell you also that the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, has hailed President Tinubu for lifting the river's emergency rule. Statements was released from the Minister's office, which was signed by Mr. Larry Olayinka, his Senior Special Assistant on Public Communications and social media. And the last paragraph is quite interesting, which a lot of people have spoken to, where he cautioned troublemakers, especially fifth columnists who are always, in his words, seeking to benefit from crisis to stay away from the state. Adding that from River State going forward, the only news that will emanate will be that of peace, progress, and development. That's from
Can
the
I hear
an
amen to that?
I want to say a resounding amen. If only he, beginning with himself, should speak to himself. So with the greatest sense of respect, he's a man I have a lot of respect for what he's done in terms of infrastructure and all of that. But he has to speak to himself. And Nyesom Wike, the Honorable Minister, that statement should first be addressed to himself and then to his political godson, to his lieutenant and the gentlemen, great gentlemen in the House of Assembly. It has nothing to do with any of us. So it's what I call the triangle of Rivers crisis that statement should be focused on. Nyesom Wike, Governor Siminalayi Fubara, Martins Amewula, and the members of the House of Assembly. That message is for these three sets of interests. That message is not for citizens, it's not for anyone, because whoever is influencing who behind the scene has to come through this direction, these three persons, these three groups or groupings, as it were, or two groupings, because I had to separate the House of Assembly because it's an arm of government. So I respect their independence as well. So if they will put their acts together with all of this, that's why we are watching it with cautious optimism. I just want this to just never to happen again, more like it's a dark spot in our history that an emergency elected officials were suspended. It's something unimaginable. But that's where we found ourselves. And we just want peace in the state. So three of them, Nyesom Wike, Siminalayi Fubara, Martins Amewula, and the House of Assembly, the message of the minister is for all of you, not for us. So that's it.
No. The president said in his statement that he's happy to inform Nigerians that intelligence available to him suggests that there is a groundswell of a new spirit of understanding. So we're just going to have to be optimistic that this understanding is not just, coming from Rivers people, but also from the critical players that will be the governor and the State Assembly for the benefit of Rivers State going forward.
We'll be bringing more for you from Rivers State. It's 6 months after the suspension of the governor and other elected officials, and they're meant to resume today. And our correspondents are around town at the government house the State Assembly, just to give you all of the latest reports from Rivers State. In the meantime, let's touch base with Nigerians in the diaspora. There's an estimated 17 million citizens of Nigeria spread across North America, Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. But guess what? They can't vote from where they are, and they remit billions of dollars yearly as diaspora remittance to the country. But when it's time to exercise their democratic franchise, at least when it concerns Nigeria, they are nowhere to be found. Time and again, there's been a lot of advocacy, in fact, even protests sometimes, to get Nigerians in the diaspora to be able to vote when elections are due. So today we take a look at how far that advocacy is going. We know there's a constitution amendment, it's gone into second reading, but how will this work really? Because there are those who say, well, we shouldn't do elections outside Nigeria. It just it touches on would I say, just how fair the election can be if it's outside the country. Well, we have joining us on the program Dr. Brian Reuben, who is one of those advocating for diaspora voting, is the CEO of Africa Economic Summit Group, joins us virtually on the program. You're welcome to the show, Dr. Reuben.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, there's a lot to talk about in Nigeria today, and I'm sure you're keeping track, even though you're not in the country. There's a river situation, there's the economy, security, and all of that. But I imagine that what concerns you primarily would be the diaspora voting, because there's a lot of talk about politics come 2027, and you're hoping that you'll be able to at least add your voice to who gets to lead Nigeria. So first, speak to us about just where you're at in this whole process, and how optimistic are you that this will eventually happen for 2027?
Well, thank you for having me. You see, Nigeria's democracy is at historic crossroads. Today, with over 17 million Nigerians live abroad, sending home more than $20 billion each year. I mean, that's bigger than some countries in Africa's GDP. Investing in businesses, mentoring startups, and serving as informal ambassadors for our country. Yet, despite these massive contributions, they cannot vote in our federal elections. This is not just a gap in policy, it is a democratic deficit. For decades, millions of Nigerians with a stake in our future have been silenced, not because they committed any crime, not because they did something wrong, but simply because geography, that's all. But now with the constitutional amendment for diaspora voting, moving through the National Assembly, that gives hope. We have a historic chance to change that narrative before the 2027 general elections. The question I have is, are we going to act now, or are we going to let inertia again win?
But here's a question, because there have been debates back and forth about diaspora voting. As I said, the credibility of the election is always at the heart of that debate. How credible will these elections be if we have to do it outside of the country and then bring it inside and all of that? And others have said, well, we've seen this tried in other climes. It's not a big deal. But I want to speak to something that came up recently and, caught my attention. And that's the fact that some have said, well, we've seen Nigerians in diaspora come home for a dirty December. They come home for, birthdays, weddings, and the rest. So is it too much to ask them to come back home during the elections to vote?
Some of us actually do that. However, you will realize that everybody didn't come for dirty December. Everybody didn't come for birthdays. And you see, diaspora voting is a strategic asset. The Nigerians in diaspora is one of the most economically powerful in the world. So beyond remittances, which fund education, healthcare, infrastructure, and small businesses, they bring skills, technology, and global networks. So enfranchising this category of people is not charity, it's a smart policy. Citizens who can vote are more likely to channel their resources into long-term productive investments and strengthen our economy. So this is not really just trying to do because other countries are doing. It's a strategic imperative. It is a fundamental human rights. Nigeria cannot practice a landlocked democracy when her citizens are global. You understand? So it's a right that is due to our people, excluding millions, purely because of location, undermines the credibility of Nigeria's democracy. Countries like Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, they've shown that overseas voting is technically feasible and politically transformative. So by failing to include our diaspora, Nigeria risks looking like a democracy limited by geography rather than one empowered by its people. So it's very imperative that we seize the moment we are in. And it is something that we should approve with urgency. We have a very small window to do this, to make this a reality before the 2027 elections. And it's narrow but decisive, right? So I think we should do all the necessary legal framework must be completed. ENEC must be funded.
Good numbers that we can binge on, about 17 million. That is significant to, tilt any direction when it comes to any election anywhere in the world. So that's a significant number. When you talk about the remittances that we have record of, it's amazing, $20 billion a year. That's literally the amount that Dangote refinery was built with. So that's significant economically. So on all sides, there are great points to argue for diaspora voting. But let's talk about the people in diaspora themselves. When you aggregate interest, how much of enthusiasm is there to be interested in the electoral process from abroad? Can you hear me, sir? If you can unmute your device, I guess you're talking, but we can't hear you. So please unmute and maybe start again.
Please set it up big.
All right. So as soon as we get the gentleman, we'll get back to talk about the issue of diaspora voting. But he's raised some good point, Kayode. Okay, let's get back to you, sir. We couldn't hear you for a moment. Did you get my question first up?
Yeah, I heard your question. You asked how excited people are about voting. And I can tell you that people look forward to that possibility. I mean, Nigerian diaspora has been participating strongly aside from the ability to vote. During elections, politicians travel to the US, to the UK, and other places to rally around support, to seek funding. And you see Nigerians commenting on social media, being interested. Some actually travel home just to vote. So imagine when this possibility is activated and people can actually go to designated polling units in foreign countries to vote. There is excitement. That's something people want to do. I mean, it's natural because Nigerians in diaspora send funds to homes and do all of that. And they even contribute to funding election in some form. So it is natural for every Nigerian in diaspora also to want to add his voice, to want to go, because if the wrong set of people are elected, it doesn't matter where you are. You have brothers at home, you have sisters at home, and there are many in diaspora who will be happy to come home if things are a lot better in the country. So yes, there is a lot of excitement about the possibility of diaspora voting. But and that's the reason why we need to make sure that it happens before the 2027 general election. Because if we don't do that, then we run the risk of continuing disenfranchising millions of Nigerians, and then we start looking forward to the next election cycle, which is not going to be very good for us. We have an opportunity to lock this in at this time. And there could never have been a better time for it. The time for debate is over. What we have now is time for action. And lawmakers, civil society, and the diaspora as well. We have a responsibility as well to work together to ensure millions of Nigerians finally have a voice in choosing their leaders. And Nigeria can, of course, become Africa's first truly global democracy. But we can't let this historic opportunity slip away.
Let's speak a bit more to the legal framework now. I wonder what's in the, what component is there to ensure that the technology that will be deployed for diaspora voting will be fail-safe, because we've heard, even with the technology, particularly from the last elections, about glitches, about attempts to hack INEC's website. So what component is in, you know, the legislation that will ensure that indeed the integrity of results coming in from diaspora voting can be relied upon?
The truth is, we can make that happen if we have the political will, if we're really interested in making that happen. All right, there is technology available. I mean, other countries have tried that and it has worked. South Africa does that. That's an African country. Ghana does that. That's an African country. Kenya does that. How much more Nigeria? If we want to do that, and I believe that we do, we should be able to have a free and fair diaspora voting. It is for us to make sure that we have a timeline that we are all committed to, right? Of course, there has to be that deployment of technology, and we need to roll out, you know, secure platforms for voter registration, authentication, and vote transmission to prevent fraud and instill confidence. That has to be done, and we need to take things in phases. For example, all right, beginning from now, you know, I mean, between now and quarter 4 of 2025 to quarter 2 of 2026, our focus has to be Nigeria must consolidate the legal foundation for diaspora voting. That means fast track third reading and of the bill, and then Senate's concurrence for constitutional amendments. And engaging, because I said it's a long legislative process as well, even aside from the technology, right? 2/3 of state legislatures still have to approve that, all right? So there are a lot of those things. It has to be done. But if we can achieve that between quarter 4 of 2025 and second quarter of 2026, then we can move to another phase. That means preparing for diaspora voting, institutional readiness, which we can target from quarter 3 of 2026 to quarter 4 of 2026. And that's what we're talking about: budget allocation, pilot centers, you know, partnership frameworks, you know, like fund working groups between INEC, Foreign Affairs, and the National Identity Management Commission and diaspora organizations to manage data verification, which is part of what part of the integrity you are talking about. All right. So we have that capability to do that. Right. And then in the phase 3, we now start looking at all of the how to actually make that happen, execution and oversight. So that and part of that will be deployment of technology. All right. Yeah. And of course, independent monitoring and evaluation. So the technology is there. It's happening in other African countries, and Nigeria can by all means do that.
It will be interesting to see how that plays out. But clearly, 17 million, that's a huge number. Of course, we'll have a very minute part of that who are maybe eligible to vote, over 18, and the rest, or like a substantial percentage of that. Don't let me say minute. But we have to thank you so much, Dr. Brian Rubin, for adding your voice to this. Thank you for joining us. You joined us alongside the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. He's looking over your shoulder right now. But we have to thank you once again for your time and wish you the very best.
Thank you very much. It's nice talking with you. Thank you.
Well, from there, let's head back to River State. Our correspondent, Deborah Agbalama, is back with us. Deborah, speak to us. It's over 30 minutes since we last spoke, so I imagine that a lot has happened since then. So tell us, what is the atmosphere like? Is the governor close to the government house, and what are the people saying?
Most of the standing politicians I saw here, not a lot of them are politicians that I've noticed here today. They're not saying anything concrete. They said they're certain he's coming. When he's coming, we don't know. But River people are certainly not. I doubt they want to live here until perhaps they see the governor. I have one of the people who came here very early this morning. I sighted him when I arrived here. Good day to you, sir. Please come. So, what's your name?
My name is Mene Duncan.
Okay. So, why are you here today?
I came here because I'm happy to see our governor back. We've been long waiting for him. And they are happy to join the rest of Rivers people to welcome him into the government house.
Okay, so in this 6 months, what did you notice in governance?
Very painful because as Rivers cannot, we can't anything, cannot identify any project, nothing. We were left in place. And that's why we are here this month to celebrate this month. We know that in a short period of time that's left, turns water to wine.
Okay, so what are your expectations from the governor as he resumes?
As we are expecting to keep up courage, not finding what has happened, to put aside the legacy of the past and embrace the governance. Lead us in the right direction and we God will help you.
How long are you willing to wait here?
We've been waiting for like let's expect the next 2 hours. The whole program will commence. Welcoming in and go to our various places.
All right, which local government are you from?
I'm from Koka local government area.
Okay, all right. All right, so this is one of the many people who are gathered here. Some of them are non-indigenes who reside in Port Harcourt. Some of them are indigenes. And well, it's more like a lot of excitement. If you hear behind me, different kinds of drums are playing, different musical instruments. The crowd is now getting more and more. Right just close to the government house gates. I couldn't stand there because of the noise. It's something else from the music they're playing. But right, I checked some of the footage earlier on. Right in front of government house, there's a crowd of people there, as well as right in the car park here. There are also people crowding behind me. Okay, so this is what it is. Now, earlier on, you asked me a question concerning what transpired between the sole administrator, Ibaka and his security details. Well, yesterday the filters also got to us that there were certain disagreements, and most of his security detail had complaints about not being well treated. A video went viral of this same incident, and the speculation is that from what we saw in the video, that they feel badly treated. However, the security agencies are quiet on this. Nothing has been heard about it. So perhaps there's no concrete statement from the security agency to say, yeah, that his details were badly treated. Neither has the sole administrator, who has just exited office, said anything about it officially. So that's what it is.
Yeah, Deborah, we'll definitely be touching base with you. We can see certain persons in uniform, and as much as possible, we appreciate if you can grab a person's one or two, because the most important part is the people. The people will continue to re-emphasize sovereignty belongs to the people, and it is the people's government at the end of the day. Politicians will do what politicians do, fight and bring us into this mess we found ourselves. But the most important people, the most important element are the people of Rivers State who were praying for that this peace or whatever it is will be maintained and we don't have another escalation in the near future. So if you can catch in on anyone around you, maybe have a conversation with them in just a moment with you. But guys, this is the situation. You know, for me as a person, sometimes my brain is difficult for me to connect some of the dots because of the faulty foundation. The logic may make sense, but we run constitutional democracy, and when you come to constitutional democracy, you don't use logic, else everybody will use all kinds of logic to push, and legally, reasonably so, to do whatever it is they want to do. That's why we're saying that the president or whoever must abide by the rule of law and stand by this, because when I read the statement, I said, well, this makes a lot of logical sense, but there's no foundation in law. That's the same thing the AGF did when it was defending before while the action was being taken. Loss of logic, no law in the sense. So that latitude, discretionary latitude in 305, as Kayode has even added, so I was listing Kayode, the governor can be taken out via the courts, his tenure ends, he's impeached, he resigns, incapacitated death, or whatever. So those are the ways So, and I was even processing it that even if our president today walks, God forbid, walks on the street and start murdering people, literally, this is hypothetical, murdering people, we have it on camera, we will still need the law, as much as we saw what he did, to remove him. We can protest for all we want. No, he has actually resigned, or the law will take its course. So that is how strong the law is. So
I guess that's why, you know,
that's why we want the courts to just make a decision and let's get out of this.
And that's why part of the debate that has resounded, you know, in the last 6 months has been that reference to former President Goodluck Jonathan, who also invoked Section 305, but without the suspension of the governors in those states or the other democratically, elected officials in those states. And so some have begun to also react to the return of democracy to Rivers State. Speaking of which, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has spoken, and he says, lifting the suspension of Governor Sim Fubara is nothing to cheer about. The suspension of the Rivers State governor and the State House of Assembly was unconstitutional when it was done 6 months ago and is still illegal today. President Tinubu had no power to suspend a democratically elected governor and state lawmakers. The Rivers shenanigans only signpost the dictatorship of the Tinubu administration. That's from former Vice President and PDP presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Kayode, you have other reactions?
Oh, yes. Nigerians have been speaking to this as well. It's not just the Vice President. We have more Nigerians, but let's go to River State. That's the primary constituency. And get back to Deborah, who's speaking with more people from River State as to their reaction to the end of this state of emergency. Deborah, over to you now. Who do you have for us?
Okay, so I have Tessie will be here. Tessie, good morning.
Hi.
How you doing? Come closer, come closer. Face the camera so they can see you well. All right, so this is Tessie Obi. She's also been here all morning. Tessie, tell us why you're here and how do you feel?
I'm very happy. Our governor is back. He's being restated. We want to say thank you to the president of Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We want to say thank you. It's not easy for this 6 months, but we know River State is moving forward. For lifting this, there will be a better River State.
So what did you notice in the period the governor was gone? What were your observations?
Well, everything was stagnant, but some of the projects were stagnant. But we believed everything would move fine.
Okay, so do you have any particular area that you would like the governor to touch on resumption? And you also know that we have the River State House of Assembly. They are also expected to resume today as well.
Yes, I want them to work together. I want togetherness in the government house because they said when you work together, there will be unity. When unity stands, progress continues. I want the governor to touch the material area, complete the project, touch schools, and other things, especially he's touching lives. So we should go ahead. He's a good governor.
Are you a Rivers indigene or you reside here?
I am a non-indigene, a woman leader for that matter in Ward 2.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right.
Well, thank you, Deborah. Interesting views there. Of course, I know there's a lot more that you have for us.
More people
go ahead.
Gathering. More and more people are gathering. Some scanty politicians, some non-politicians. Okay. So we have someone here who's joining us.
Yeah,
good morning. Okay, all right. So how do you feel about this? Please, this way, sir. Your name?
Yeah, my name is Michael Igolima.
Okay.
Yeah, so today is a great day for River State. Today symbolizes that this has come to River State. So we thank the FCT minister, we thank the president, we thank the Amir, the Speaker of the Resident Assembly, we thank the entirety of Rivers people. We can see the crowd. It's a show of love for the governor and a show of love for the peace which has come to stay. And put the governor greetings, our prayers. our goodwill and our support.
Okay, so what is your anticipation? What do you expect to see as he returns back into office?
You just build on where he stops. You take the states to the next level and because as a state in the world map.
Many are worried if this peace is going to be lasting. Does it worry you as well?
No, it's a lasting peace. It's a mixed bag. Everybody is here. Everybody is here. All political persuasions, all ethnic divide, all religious divides, everybody is here. You know, we just advise the naysayers to give peace a chance.
Okay, the River State House of Assembly too is also resuming plenary today. Do you foresee a close relationship with the governor, or rather a cordial relationship?
Very, very cordial. Very, very. You know, we're one family. We're one family, so resuming as one family. Very, very cordial. More cordial than.
But there should be separation of powers, even in these checks and balances.
Definitely. The assembly will play a legitimate and constitutional role. The governor will govern the state within the ambit of the law, and rivers will better for it.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so that's what it is. We'll keep you updated as events begin to play. We are still waiting for the governor to arrive and his deputy as well, because two of them were actually suspended and they're expected to resume together. We'll keep you updated as events unfold.
Deborah Balama, the correspondent there, bringing us up to speed. Thank you, Deborah. I'll keep tab with you, I'm sure, throughout the day as events unfold. But let's come back to the studio right here. And Kaide, you were to take the next one on what the people are saying.
Oh, yes. This is another message saying it's a welcome move because no state should live indefinitely under emergency rule because it undermines democracy. But this user, Africa must be better. That's the tag of this user. Says the return of a governor and house only matters if they can genuinely serve the people without federal interference. If the root causes of the crisis, which is political godfatherism, is not resolved, as well as power struggles, lifting the emergency may just be a pause and not a solution.
Oh, fantastic. There's another one, I think, from, this is a short one, man-like souls, man-like_souls said, good move. Stability must return to River State. Now it's time for real governance, not political chaos. The people deserve peace and progress. I totally and absolutely agree with you on this one.
There's another one, and, you know, we acknowledge all of your reactions to the return of the governor and other elected state officials. But let's quickly take this one, which has just come through from the State House. President Tinubu has issued a statement condoling with families, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, United Bank of Africa, United Capital, over the loss of the lives from the fire outbreak at Afriland Towers, which occurred on Tuesday. President Tinubu commiserates with the families, victims over Tuesday's fire outbreak, extending his condolences to the management and staff of Afriland Properties, United Capital, UBA, and particularly those who lost loved ones in the inferno and the injured who are currently receiving medical attention. That was a very sad incident, and we offer our condolences as well with all families who have been affected in the incident.
It was very disturbing to see that picture. It's not something you like to see yet again because your heart is literally skipping as you watch it live. It looks like a movie, but that was real life. But our thoughts and our prayers are with the families of those whose loved ones have passed on because of this particular fire incident. We understand about 6 or so persons confirmed dead from this incident. So it's just a very difficult time for everyone. But I think that's where we... okay, we still have more?
Oh, yes, certainly. By the way, we're able to have a conversation around this with the fire service in this state. They're harmonizing the situation, and will get back to us, as I said. We're meant to have that conversation on the program today. But just before we go, we must also touch on this viral video which showed students engaging in illicit behavior in a dormitory. And this now viral video has raised lots of conversation around just how much attention is being paid to these young ones, what kind of teaching, training are they getting in schools and from the homes. I mean, look at them. We must say that the Lagos state government has released a statement saying its attention has been drawn to this disturbing video currently circulating on social media, showing a group of students presumed to be from Excel College, Ejigbo, engaging in acts of smoking and consumption of alcohol within what appears to be a dormitory setting. The state government says it views this incident with the utmost seriousness, as it goes against the core values and behavioral standards expected within the educational system of Lagos State. Goes on to say that the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, via the relevant agency, is fully aware of the content of the video and has commenced a thorough investigation into the matter. I must say that Channels Television also reached out to the school authorities, that's of Excel College, Ejigbo, for their reaction to speak to this. Well, there's a statement flying online, but the school itself has not responded to our messages and our calls. But it's important to deal with this decisively because it's not cliche saying that this is the future of our nation. They are indeed the future. But what would you expect from this right now?
And how old are these young boys? Probably 15, 16, 14. Evidently, all guardians have dropped the ball there. But we're going to expand this conversation tomorrow, as it is of uppermost concern, for all that should be responsible for the care of those children. That will be tomorrow. But this is where we anchor the show today, and we want to thank you very much for being a part of it. Of course, there's more updates coming through from Rivers State, so stay with Channels Television, as we've got you covered all day, all week, every day.
And that's it on the program. Thanks for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga.
I'm Karadoki Kilu. Sunrise Daily is next.
Yeah,
Have a great day.
Coca, bye for now.